Today, I'd like to rewind the clock and take you back about 200 years, not for a history lesson, but to reflect on the impact and the glory of Parabrahm Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Born in 1781, he graced our world for just 49 years. And yet, what happened in those 49 years, it feels almost unreal. By the age of 11, he left his home, and for more than 7 years, he walked across Bharat, not with an entourage, not with pomp, but with purpose. He ignited massive social reform, established Ekantik Dharma, clarified the Akshay Purushottam Siddhant, and to preserve this upasana, he even created 6 majestic mandirs. But today, I want to focus on something equally important, and that's Bhagwan Swaminarayan's unique lineage of sadhus. Because these were not ordinary individuals. Before becoming sadhus, some were kings, wealthy aristocrats, scholars, and even accomplished yogis. They were people who had options, people who had status. They even had great influence. But once they met Bhagwan Swaminarayan, they surrendered everything. The great Sadguru Paramhansas has written, कि हम तो एक का सहजानंद गावे, हमारे मन दूसरो न भावे. We sing only of Sahajanand. Our minds desire none other than Swaminarayan. This wasn't poetry stemming from the mind. It was the heartbeat of an entire Santa Parampara. The Paramhansas, they erased the illusion of being the center, to live only as instruments of Bhagwan. They became Sriji Maharaj's Paramhansas. Today, let's explore 3 characteristics of these extraordinary Paramhansas. The first being vidvata, intellect. The second, koshalya, artistic mastery. And the third, aishwarya, divine powers. Through these 3, we will try to understand how their Ishtadev, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, is Parabrahm Purushottam Narayan. श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवाननी जय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराजनी जय, गुणातीतानंद स्वामी महाराजनी जय, भगत जी महाराजनी जय, शास्त्री जी महाराजनी जय, योगी जी महाराजनी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराजनी जय, महंत स्वामी महाराजनी जय, सूरत अक्षरधाम महोत्सवनी जय. Today, I'd like to rewind the clock and take you back about 200 years, not for a history lesson, but to reflect on the impact and the glory of Parabrahm Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Born in 1781, he graced our world for just 49 years. And yet, what happened in those 49 years, it feels almost unreal. By the age of 11, he left his home, and for more than 7 years, he walked across Bharat, not with an entourage, not with pomp, but with purpose. He ignited massive social reform, established Ekantik Dharma, clarified the Akshay Purushottam Siddhant, and to preserve this upasana, he even created 6 majestic mandirs. But today, I want to focus on something equally important, and that's Bhagwan Swaminarayan's unique lineage of sadhus. Because these were not ordinary individuals. Before becoming sadhus, some were kings, wealthy aristocrats, scholars, and even accomplished yogis. They were people who had options, people who had status. They even had great influence. But once they met Bhagwan Swaminarayan, they surrendered everything. The great Sadguru Paramhansas has written, कि हम तो एक का सहजानंद गावे, हमारे मन दूसरो न भावे. We sing only of Sahajanand. Our minds desire none other than Swaminarayan. This wasn't poetry stemming from the mind. It was the heartbeat of an entire Santa Parampara. The Paramhansas, they erased the illusion of being the center, to live only as instruments of Bhagwan. They became Sriji Maharaj's Paramhansas. Today, let's explore 3 characteristics of these extraordinary Paramhansas. The first being vidvata, intellect. The second, koshalya, artistic mastery. And the third, aishwarya, divine powers. Through these 3, we will try to understand how their Ishtadev, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, is Parabrahm Purushottam Narayan. Let's look at the first characteristic, vidvata. Because in today's world, intellect, it's everything. It's our currency. It is our most important asset. Because our degrees, certificates, even titles, or even our LinkedIn profiles, we build entire identities around our intellect. But when these intellectual giants encountered Bhagwan Swaminarayan, they didn't showcase their intellect. They surrendered it. They denounced it. Sadguru Nishkan Swami writes, कि मैं तो सुखना सिंधु जोई रे बुद्धि मारी त्या बूढ़ी. Upon seeing the ocean of unending bliss, my most important asset, my intellect, it has drowned in it. The Paramhansas realize that being the smartest person in the room, it doesn't matter if you aren't even in the right room. Just look at Brahmanand Swami, highly intelligent and articulate, a master of the Pingal Shastra, the science of prosody, a household name in royal courts, and a Shatavdhani. Once when he was in Mudi, a scholar from Jodhpur, Devidas Brahmbhat, came to visit. Now Devidas himself was an expert in poetry, and perhaps feeling a bit confident, he challenged Brahmanand Swami to an Ashtavdhan Kavya battle. The challenge was Ashtavdhan, but Brahmanand Swami, he was ready for Shatavdhan. You may wonder what I'm talking about, so let's try to understand the mental mastery we're dealing with. Avdhan Kavya is a traditional form of poetry. It's the pinnacle of mental agility, creativity, and memory. Now the poet, or the Avdhani, is to remember many things at once and compose improvised poetry, all while a panel of scholars attempt to distract him. In Ashtavdhan, Ashta means 8. Imagine a poet sitting at the center, surrounded by 8 brilliant scholars. The first scholar, he says a topic, and the Avdhani begins composing. The second, he fires difficult questions. The Avdhani remembers them and answers in the poem. The third, he gives completely unrelated words, which the Avdhani must include. The fourth, he begins reciting difficult Sanskrit verses. The Avdhani translates them in his poem. The fifth, he ignites a deep philosophical discussion. And while all of this is happening, the sixth begins to ring a bell and throw flower petals. The Avdhani is to count every single petal while still composing. The seventh, he begins to speak nonsensically in an attempt to distract the Avdhani. And the eighth, he attempts to confuse the Avdhani by changing letters or words. And through all of this chaos, the Avdhani is to remember everything, weave it into his poem, and finally recite the entire poem again. This rare skill is called Ashtavdhan. Now this is beyond multitasking. This is superhuman focus. So when Devidas threw this challenge, Brahmanand Swami, he just humbly smiled and said, "Ki for such a simple Ashtavdhan, you can meet my disciple Vaishnavanand Swami. But if you wish to complete a Shatavdhan, then let's meet." Ashtavdhan means facing 8 scholars at once. Shatavdhan, it means facing 100. Brahmanand Swami was a Shatavdhani. Devidas was stunned. He instantly fell at the feet of the great Shatavdhani Brahmanand Swami, and he said, "Ki you are my Bhagwan. There is no one greater than you." But Brahmanand Swami, he folded his hands, and he redirected that praise. He said, "Do not be mistaken, Devidas. There are hundreds of Paramhansas like me who serve Bhagwan Swaminarayan, and if you wish for moksha, turn his mara and chant his name." So imagine being at the absolute top of your field and still saying, "I'm just one among the many." That's not insecurity. That's clarity. The Paramhansas, they had clarity. Then there's Sadguru Nityanand Swami. At a young age, he studied the Vedic scriptures in Kashi. But when he first met Bhagwan Swaminarayan, that was it. He abandoned his wealth of 40,000 rupees, a fortune worth millions today. As a sadhu, he would travel to various cities and royal courts, defeating scholars in debates while establishing Bhagwan Swaminarayan as Sarvopari Sarvavatari, the supreme Bhagwan and the cause of all incarnations. Once, while Nityanand Swami was busy in Vadodara, scholars in Ahmedabad decided to challenge the Swaminarayan sadhus to a debate and defeat them in Nityanand Swami's absence. Now this would have brought great shame to the entire sampradaya. But once Nityanand Swami found out, he immediately departed for Ahmedabad. So imagine a scholar so brilliant, so articulate, that when he enters the room, the opposition, they just give up. When Nityanand Swami entered the assembly, the scholars quit. They admitted that we can hunt rabbits, but definitely not a lion. This Nityanand, He's a lion. Kesari kera gandhati kari koti trasere. Just at the mere scent of a lion, millions of elephants, they began to tremble. Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he didn't just have one lion. He had over 3,000 Kesari lions, each capable of being worshipped like God, but instead, they worshipped Bhagwan Swaminarayan. They performed his bhakti. They followed his niyams. They followed his agnas. Because no matter how intelligent these Paramansas truly were, they all only had one thing in their mind, ke hum to ek sahajananda gave. The second characteristic that we look at is kada koshalya. Because these Paramansas, they were super talented. They were painters and dancers. They were orators and singers. They were excellent writers and even great poets. Let's look at poetry. Throughout the history of Sanatan Hindu Dharma, there have been many great bhakti poets of the past. But they described Bhagwan they believed in, whereas the Paramansas, they described the Bhagwan they lived with. This is challenging. Bhagwan appears as a human, performs human-like actions. This is Parabrahm sitting in front of you. He's eating, he's walking, and he's talking. But these Paramansas, they only experienced divyata, divinity, and composed over 30,000 pads on just Bhagwan Swaminarayan. A prime example is Sadguru Premanand Swami, a master musician, singer, and poet. He has composed over 14,000 pads in 7 different languages. If Spotify existed back then, he could have been the #1 global artist. Just take this prasang for example. Once, professional singers from Gwalior, the music city of Bharat, they were traveling across Bharat showcasing their talents. They came to Junagadh and desired to sing for the Muslim Nawab, but the Nawab, he said no. He said, कि जब से मैंने स्वामिनारायण के फकीर प्रेमानंद का रूहानी संगीत सुना है, तब से मैं किसी और का संगीत नहीं सुनता हूँ. कि ever since I heard Swaminarayan's fakir, Premanand, I am no longer willing to listen to anyone else. The singers of Gwalior, they became intrigued and they traveled to Gurara to meet Premanand Swami. They arrived midday and challenged Premanand Swami to sing for them. Now remember, Premanand Swami is the maestro here. But he turns to Maharaj and he asks, what should I sing? For a professional musician, rag and time, they're non-negotiable. So this question, it wasn't a musical decision. This was an act of Sharanagati. Maharaj said, "Ke sing Bhairav rag." Bhairav is a morning rag. It is currently noon. So the singers of Gwalior, they began to laugh. But Premanand Swami, he became focused. Where logic said, "Ke this won't work," Bhakti said, "Just watch this." Premanand Swami immediately immersed himself in Maharaj's murti and he began to sing. The entire atmosphere transformed and everyone experienced Prabhat. That was Premanand Swami. Had he decided to sing professionally, money would have rained. Yet he declared, "Ke hu chakar tharo dam binaro, ye mara thakar sham. Jo harivar kai chuk pade to, karjo tadan lai lagam." He said, "Maharaj, I am your servant without pay. If I make any mistakes, please discipline me with the rain." Now think about this for a moment. Imagine walking into your workplace tomorrow and telling your boss, I don't want a salary, I don't want a title, I don't even want any recognition for my work. Just tell me how I can serve. Now this may sound uncomfortable or even unrealistic, but for each and every Paramhans, this wasn't imagination, this was living Nishta. There was Nishkuran Swami, Vairagyani Murti, the embodiment of detachment. His compositions alone could make worldly life seem bitter. That was his power. But how does he describe himself when he does stuti in the Bhakti Chintamani? He says, Maharaj, I am weak and blind. I am mute and destitute. Whatever I am able to achieve is solely through your pratap. Now this isn't false humility or self-deprecation, but crystal clear understanding of where Shakti, where ability, it truly comes from. There's Brahmanand Swami, a master singer and musician, powerful orator, a sharp thinker, a master builder of mandirs. Navigating through extreme financial hardship, he created the majestic mandir in Vartal. Amid fierce opposition, he stood firm and created a mandir in Junagadh. But when he faced clear injustice, what did he say? He said, Jevo teo teo putra tamaro anusamju ahankari re. Before you, Maharaj, I am just a small, ignorant, egotistical child. Look at Muktanand Swami. He was older than Bhagwan Swaminarayan, the most senior in Satsang, the epitome of sadhuta. His mere darshan could pacify the enraged. He was so gifted he could paint with his feet while dancing. But that great Muktamuni writes, कि मुक्तानंद कहे तेरी दृढ़ता जो डगे मेरी शूली पे चढ़ाइए तीखे तीरन से मारियो. If my conviction wavers even slightly, place me on a shooty and strike me down. That was Muktanand Swami. There was Manju Keshavchintandas Swami, Devanand Swami, Dayanand Swami, Bhumanand Swami, and many more. Even today, the compositions of these elite poets, they continue to bring joy, inspire spiritual growth, and serve as subjects of academic study. By any worldly standard, their name has fame, reverence, and immortality attached to it. And yet, they all lived with just one sentiment, कि हम तो एक सहजानंद गावे. The third characteristic that we look at is aishwarya. Beyond their sharp intellect and rare talents, the Paramansas also possessed something that completely defies human limits. They had aishwarya, they had divine powers. Now let's be clear, in today's world, we are quietly nurtured to be skeptical. If someone claims miracles, our first reaction is to doubt, ask questions, and ask for an explanation. But the Paramansas, they weren't performing magic tricks. They weren't displaying power to impress. The aishwarya, it was natural. When Bhagwan Swaminarayan was just 21 years old, he became the head of the Sampradaya. And soon after, on the 30th of February 1801, he gave the powerful Swaminarayan Mahamantra to Shitalas, a mumukshu from Madhya Pradesh. Now, without any practice of Ashtanga Yoga, without any years of sadhana, simply by just chanting the Swaminarayan Mahamantra, Shitalas experienced Krupa Samadhi. He became Bhagwan Swaminarayan's first Dikshit Sadhu and was named Vyapakanand Swami. Once while he was passing through Botad, he came upon the Darbargarh of Hamir Kachar. The entire family was mourning the death of their beloved horse. Seeing everyone drowning in grief, Swami's heart was filled with compassion. He entered the Darbargarh, and while chanting the Swaminarayan Mahamantra, he transferred the jeev from a mosquito and brought the horse back to life. All of the witnesses were convinced that there is no greater Bhagwan than Vyapakanand Swami. But Vyapakanand Swami denounced this. For him, the only identity that mattered was humble servant of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. From an early age, when Gopalanand Swami was known as Kushal Bhatt, he mastered Ashtanga Yoga. The Murti in the famous Shamaraji Mandir would come and play with him, a record still available today in the historical archives of the Mandir. To just save one Haribhakt, Swami even halted an eclipse. Then there was Santadasji, who in his very physical body could travel to sacred abodes like Badrikashram. Advaitanand, a master of tantric knowledge, could cause burning embers to rain from the sky. Even Sachidanand Swami, he requested Indra and made it rain just to save suffering Haribhakto from a devastating drought. The Harilamrut Granth, it discusses aishwarya. It says that work which can be learned is still considered human work. So no matter how grand, how difficult, or impossible a task may seem, if it can be learned, it is ultimately still human work. However, something which can never be learned is called aishwarya. These Paramansas possessed both immense ability and powers beyond human capacity. People didn't just respect them. They stood in awe of them, they worshipped them. The Paramansas, they weren't chasing followers or fame. They already had everything. They were trying to disappear, and yet, Bhagwan's glory, it kept manifesting through them. They lived with unwavering humility and absolute obedience to Bhagwan Swaminarayan, because all they cared about was Hamato Ek Sahajananda Gave. Today, we looked at three extraordinary qualities of the great Paramansas, their vidvata, their koshalya, and aishwarya. But these are not just respectable traits, they are evidence that the Bhagwan they worship, Shriji Maharaj, himself is asadharan. In Vachanamrut Ahmedabad 5, Shriji Maharaj discusses the three asadharan lakshans of Purushottam Bhagwan. The third is his power to control Akshar and the Mukts. All of these Paramansas, they were Mukts, each possessing immense spiritual powers. Yet, they humbly followed every agna of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. They passed through difficult 114 prakarans. Just imagine telling the intelligent Brahmanand Swami, the skilled Nishkuranand Swami, or the perfected yogi like Gopalan Swami to sit in cold water during the freezing winters, to sleep at the edge of the village, far from any human interaction, in the open, with the earth as a bed, the sky as a blanket, to beg for food, tie it in a cloth, repeatedly dip it in water until it becomes completely tasteless, and then place it in front of a dog. Even if a dog refuses to eat it, were you allowed to consume it? It sounds harsh to us today because we like to complain about the smallest things like the Wi-Fi being slow. But for the Paramahansas, every agna, it defied logic. Every instruction opposed personal comfort, and yet, meru dage, pan harina vachanti Paramahanso nava dagta. A mountain might move, but the Paramahansas, they would never waver from Maharaj's words. Not out of fear, not out of compulsion, but out of a longing for moksha. In Bhakti Chintamani Prakran 71, the Paramahansas prayed to Maharaj, કે પછી સંત ઉઠ્યા જોડી હાથ જેમાં કહો તેમાં કરીએ નાથ કે મહારાજ we will do whatever you tell us to do. કહો તો મટકું ન ભરીએ મીટે કહો તો અન્ન ન જમીએ પેટે કે મહારાજ if you say so we won't blink or won't eat. કહો તો તજીએ છાદનનો સંગ રહીએ હિમમાં ઉગાડે અંગ કે we will abandon shelter and live in the cold. કહો તો પીવું તજી દઈએ પાણી રહીએ મૌન ન બોલીએ વાણી. If you tell us, we will stop drinking water and we won't even utter a single sound. Kaho to besiye asana vadi, nava જોઈએ આ દેહ સંભાળી. We will sit in asan with complete disregard for the body. At the end, they said, કે એમાં હિંમતે છે મન માયા, તમે કહો તે કેમ ન થાયા. એમાં બોલ્યા જ્યારે મુનિ જન, સુની પ્રભુજી થયા પ્રસન્ન. Paramahansas who themselves were revered as divine, lived as devoted shishas of Parabrahm Bhagwan Swaminarayan. But this isn't just past history. That asadharanparno has not just faded in our books. It is alive. It is experienced today through Mahansai Maharaj. There are many great Santo and Haribhakta today who can build magnificent mandirs and akshardhams around the world, who in 1 year can transform 600 acres of barren land into a cultural wonderland, who at the age of 39 can write commentaries on the Prasthantraya, something which hasn't been done for centuries. Think about our Sadguru Santo, individuals who are at the pinnacle of spiritual attainment. They're living proof that Brahmi Sthiti is attainable by aligning one's life with the Agna and Marji of the Satpurush. They have attained Jivan Mukti. They're experiencing Akshardham while still walking this earth. They are living legends. Thousands of devotees around the Satsang community have experienced that from their Ashirvad, complex life problems become resolved, physical ailments eased, mental turmoil calmed. Their mere darshan, it brings inner peace. Each is worthy of worship, yet within them lives one simple sentiment. Agade rakho, pachade rakho, pardaothi ढांको. Sadaye rakho pas charan ke, dur bhale ne nakho. Que keep me at the front or the back. Completely conceal me if needed. Keep me by your feet or send me far away. તાડી પાડે બાહ પોકારે નિંદે દુનિયા સારી. રીજુ આપને જોઈ આપજ દુનિયા મારી. Whether the entire world applauds me or boldly criticizes me, my only joy is seeing you pleased because you are my entire world. Mahanta Swami, tava kathaputadi chu nachisha jema nachawa. Ke Mahanta Swami, I am your puppet. I shall dance however you want. To inspire individuals of such caliber, those who have the ability to leave a dent in the universe themselves, to inspire them to humbly serve, to live according to your niyams, to become dependent on you, without force, without wealth, or even authority. This alone reflects the supreme transcendence of Parabrahm. We are very fortunate to have attained Parabrahm Bhagwan Swaminarayan today through our Akshar Brahma Guru Mahanta Swami Maharaj. So as we navigate through our lives and careers, our ambitions and goals, let's take a page from their book. Let's learn from the Paramahansas. Their successes in life, they vastly differ from a successful life. Let's pray today that we fully understand Maharaj and Swami's Mahima, that we too can follow their agnas and through their association attain the eternal bliss of Akshardham. Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwanini Jai.
Thank you for joining us today and listening with such devotion. Bhagwan Swaminarayan has taught us the power of listening to katha. It purifies our mind and brings us closer to God. So if this katha helped you, give it a like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone you care about. Until next time, Jai Swaminarayan.